Captain's Log Supplemental.
So, Miss Vicki.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those grid life events where you used to see the in-car video and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
You know, we have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars. Maybe two.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does the Sentinel system do?
We could have 3 cameras with picture-in-picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled 3 who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team. Dominating with Dawson.
Words I have not said in way too long. Ben Dawson, I need me some Ben Dawson.
Thankfully, I'm able to see you. It's so nice to see you two again. I've been out.
Ben.
I've been out of pocket for a minute with some let's get my eye fixed. So it's nice to lay both my eyes on you guys and see y'all.
So your eye.
Yes.
Aye,
Captain.
What? So what happened to your eye?
I had a kind of a mystery detached retina. They're not sure why, whether it was like some rogue blood vessels or some inflammatory fluid. But the doctor's like, hey, the reason you can't see is because your retina is not really participating as part of your eye right now. And they had to do surgery to put a gas bubble in there to press my retina back into place and like a band around my eye. It's going to be there forever to prevent scleral buckling. And so it's been a long recovery, and it was a pretty serious procedure, like a full, general anesthesia and everything. You're out for a while. Like get your dad to bring get your daddy to bring you to the hospital and stay with you. My parents came out and stayed for a week and stuff like that, just kind of help us shuttle kids around. But it was a pretty serious vision intervention, and I'm glad to have the people like it that we have. I went to Duke, which is a very great hospital system and medical system. I got bounced from my local retinal specialist. Luckily, this guy was a pro and enough of a pro to say, hey, I'm out of my depth here. This is the retinal doctor. He's like, I don't know what's going on with your retina. I need to send you to Duke where they have better lasers and, all these different, better diagnostics. So I really appreciate my local retinal doctor being like, hey, this is my job, but I'm out of talent. I mean, which is also can translate right into what we talk about all the time with racing, where, it's important to know when you're in your depth and when you're depth, whether it's on track or in car prep or anything like that. But I super respect my Chapel Hill guy saying like, hey, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. We got to shoot you over to Duke where they can shoot you with better lasers and do more diagnostics. And then they kind of took it from there. But it was a little bit of a scary time because they're like, hey, you have the detached retina. I was like, yeah, it's been like that for a couple months. And y'all knew it. And then the doctor at Duke was like, okay, they did some imaging with some dye to like look at my blood vessels and see what they were doing. She's like, we need to go ahead and have the surgery. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, let's do it like in a month and a half. And I get back and I get a call the next day from the scheduler. They're like, can you come tomorrow? And I'm like, no, I can't come tomorrow. Like, how about day after tomorrow? I was like, oh crap, you mean this is pretty serious? So yeah, it was a pretty instant intervention once I got in front of the right folks. So I'm
Wow.
grateful to be on the right path, but it was a pretty serious procedure, and going to be some follow up procedures and stuff like that too. But headed back toward better vision from that eye.
Oh, nice. It's
Yeah.
it's the eye rolls. It's the eye rolls.
But the
Yeah,
part
that's right.
about
So
this,
many.
And
I'm always
gotta,
you can hear it clanging back and forth when I'm rolling my eyes. I
yeah.
guess I got to stop doing that so much.
So,
but the worst part about this is we canceled our Lucky Dog VIR event. Ben,
No,
yes, we
no,
did. Well, that wasn't the only reason why we had to cancel
no,
no,
the
we're blaming
VIR.
Ben. We're blaming Ben.
No, we had major logistic issues getting out the door
that's all
for,
right.
yeah.
They're going to keep having races. We're going to keep going to them. We just didn't do that one. Not a
Is
big deal.
VIR going anywhere? No, it's
Nope.
not.
Nope.
That they lost that tree a while back, but I think that was the only kind
Yeah.
of impermanent thing about VIR. They're going to be there and still they're going to still be there and be making
Yeah.
money.
Indeed. So it wouldn't be a Dominator Dawson without talking about something all about racing.
Let's do it. I'm so
Driving.
extremely excited to talk about racing with you guys.
You can tell he's been locked in a room, just rocking in the corner, going, "Please let
Mhm.
me talk about passing somebody. Please let me talk about passing somebody."
Yes. Not even a joke.
Nope. So, given your current ability to see things, I thought this would be particularly. I have no idea how I'm getting to where I'm going. It's all
Let's
right.
get there.
So, transition away. Let's talk about something we have implicated a few times. We've even talked
Ooh,
around it a few times, but I don't think we ever
okay.
talked about it.
Let's insinuate away.
Let's get to the direct topic of trust on track.
Okay. That's a huge topic. Yeah, let's get into it.
So I think that there's so many different ways to do this that we could do like 10 parts just on this.
Yeah.
It's something that you need to have in order for everybody to fully enjoy, but it's something that needs to be earned as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's true. I mean, and to some degree, you could just blanket say, I don't ever trust a race car driver and then start from there, which is one way to look at it. And to some degree, that guy lives in my head. But also, then there are varying degrees of how much trust might be inherent to the group that you run with. There are a couple of endurance racing groups where it could be your first day ever at a racetrack or in a race car like Women's or Champ Car. Not to say that those are bad things, but there are things to know about that. When you're assessing how much trust should I give this car, even if it's a car that you recognize from your last three races and think you have a pretty good gauge about how they usually act. It could be one of their buddies in the car, and they've never been to the track before. So that's something to think about. Whereas versus like a Lucky Dog event or AER or WRL, where there's an experience level requirement, you kind of got to get checked off, or somebody's got to vouch for you, or you have to be maybe an advanced level DE driver or better, or you have to have this much
Or
wheel
no
to
Ben
wheel.
Dawson.
Right. But I feel a little more confident going into a corner with in a series next to somebody when there's an experience requirement, or you're sure it's not this person's first time with the track, and it's probably not their first time wheel to wheel, and they may have a better idea about the mores and etiquette that are required for people to operate safely on track around other vehicles in competition.
But you can have first time drivers, first time cars, first time in that driver on a raceway, and they'll be fine. They can earn the trust relatively
Yes.
quickly.
That's true. But also one big bogey that we all exist with is you're usually out there with a car that you may recognize, but there may be 4 or 5 different drivers rotating into that car who you don't know. So you
Right.
may have a kind of an idea how the team generally does. You have an idea what that car is capable of because you've probably seen it out there operating with its best operators at some point.
Hmm.
So you think, oh crap, that car's really fast, but then you may be rolling up on it to pass it, and then you may realize like, oh, here's a driver who I may not be as familiar with. Hey, I can see that I'm able to pass them, but you're constantly gauging how much trust to give somebody, and it can kind of develop corner by corner. It can develop as you're pulling up to pass them. You kind of see how they're operating. I mean, to me, trust is a very fluid thing on the racetrack. Like if I see somebody doing something that, that's out of step with what I would expect, even if it's a car and a team I might trust, I might not trust that driver's condition. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but if you see somebody doing something a little bit weird, it might be like, man, maybe that driver is overtaxed in the car. Maybe they're hot. Maybe they're, maybe they're mad. Maybe they're not thinking, and that may decrease their situational awareness, and
Right.
it may decrease how much you can trust them. But I mean, trust is something that feels to me like a constant assessment, something that I'm always kind of trying to build and work with. It's not something that you can say is a black and white thing. It's not like a this run group, this run group, this run group. You know what I mean? It's not regimented. It's not set. It's not concrete in any way to me.
Yeah. And it's pretty easy to earn, but it's really easy to lose.
You guys know me. I'm the worst at like if I get one bad data point about a person, personality wise, politically, whatever it is, I'm the worst at like boom, they're out of here. Like I'm never going to consider this person again. And I'm not quite that bad on the racetrack. And to me, I think if there's any place where we should all owe each other, maybe not owe each other, but should try to give each other a little bit of grace, it's at the racetrack. We're
Yeah.
all out there doing something that's extremely tough, that's fraught with a fair amount of grown-up big person danger. And when you're having a rough time at the track, it can end up displaying itself in some pretty weird ways. And you got to kind of at least to me, I got to be willing to let some stuff go.
Yeah.
And some of that, and I got to be able to calculate some of that stuff into my trust thing and realize like, oh, maybe this driver's just having a bad time out there. But the trust on the racetrack ultimately comes down to I'm trying to get out here and get the car out of here safely for the next driver. I'm trying to get home safely to the people and animals that depend on me and love me. And so those are kind of considerations. And when I said at the beginning that I don't trust any other race car drivers, that's pretty true. Even if I'm out there, with a bunch of people I know fairly well, like I know all 4 people on this team at an AER event. If I'm going to put myself in a position to pull a pass, I'm also going to equally put myself in a position to pull away from a pass.
Sure.
When it's lemons, I'm going to give everybody probably an extra foot or two than more so than I would a more experienced group, something like that. So the degree to which I'm ready to bail out might change with how much I generally trust the population out there.
Hmm.
But I don't trust her. I don't trust race car drivers because I mean, part of this is my superiority complex, but I'm better at this than most of the people I'm going to come across. And I think even if you're not living that reality, if you feel that way, that you should always be like, hey, I'm pretty better at this. My situational awareness is better. I'm going to be the one to be the bigger driver here. If shit goes south, I'm going to extricate myself. And part of that is also my trust calculation of just not trusting anybody in a race car. It's hard. That what we're doing out there is hard. It's easy to mess up. So even if somebody's not intentionally doing it, even if it's somebody I like and generally think is a good person and an accomplished racer, it's so easy to mess this stuff up. Unforced errors, forced errors, they're all out there waiting to jump on me. So much as I trust and love somebody, I don't trust them enough to not be operating without a contingency plan. Does that make sense?
It does. It
No,
does.
absolutely.
So, Miss Vicky, how does somebody earn your trust on a track?
Well, do what they're supposed to do, number one.
Yeah. Good
Be
point.
predictable, obviously. I mean, there is some allowances. There is some allowances that you can kind of pass, make a pass on. Um, you know, even to a degree, like everybody kind of makes mistakes, but at least at some point, you know, them just, being predictable and doing what they're doing, and of course following etiquette.
Yeah.
And Bill, Bill made a very, very good point is that,
What?
I know, right? Trust is earned and you can have trust, but once you break it, it's really hard for a team to come back from it. Um, it 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 can actually stamp your team, you know,
Yeah.
it can put a stamp on your team. And
I got one for this in a minute.
yeah,
Totally.
and that goes, you know what? And even beyond that, that is even beyond the driving part, just the track etiquette. And it's not complicated. It's just don't be a jerk. Don't be, don't be an A-hat, you
Do a
know.
point. Do a
Yeah.
point by. Don't dive bomb.
Right.
That's so
Don't
funny. That's
dive
so
bomb.
funny.
But no, seriously, because you know,
When
it's
you
just a
pass me,
race.
when you pass me, you have to pass all of me, not like 3/4 of me and then cut off the front part because I
Yeah.
apparently don't need that part of my car. Pass the whole car, maybe even a couple inches more than the whole car would be
Right.
appreciated.
I'm sorry. The reason I was laughing is there's so many situations you see in movies where somebody gets their ass beat. It's like, did you get it? And then the person who got their ass beat is like, yeah, it's not complicated. I got,
Right.
like there have definitely been times where I pass somebody in my head. I'm like, see, it's not complicated. I'm going by. You're staying here. That's all we gotta do. But it's funny when you talk about somebody's actions kind of casting a pall or a shade on how you might perceive the whole team for a while. I'm not going to call out any names, but there's a local guy who races Champ Car a fair amount. He races a small green Mazda car that are usually convertibles. Rhymes with Riata, but this guy is his Miata looks like a sack of walnuts because they're not worried about hitting everybody. You know what I mean? And
Right.
at one point, I mean, our team takes. I'm sure I've told this story on this podcast at least one time. This is years and years ago. I'm not probably talking about something that's probably closer to 10 years ago than it is 5 years ago. But we were out there with our E30, probably ill-advisedly running a champ event, 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, because we used to run them a fair amount with that E30 because they were close by. They ran VIR north and south, and it was really easy to go do these races. But it came with a risk because we were out there and some of my teammates are better at not letting themselves get hit than others, and we'd have guest drivers come through. But this guy's car hit our car, and it was I think it was him in the car, the owner. But after it, I came by to go, hey, y'all hit us out there. And he just looked at me like, hey, yeah. Like,
Right.
no kind of like, yeah, you're like, yeah, okay. Like, of course, and I was like,
I wouldn't have made the turn.
Not okay.
I wouldn't have made the turn
okay.
without. I wouldn't have made the turn without your car. Thanks.
Every time you hit me, it cost me money.
well, yeah. So it was such a weird thing where I said that, and he's just matter of fact, yeah, we hit people. I'm like, we don't hit people, and if you hit me, we're gonna talk about it, And this guy was just so out in left field, like, hold on. I mean, I just ever since then, I just always gave that car a little more room because I don't want him to hit me. You know what I mean? And here I am shit talking him years later, but that's that made a huge impression on me. And it's not somebody I trust as much as I used to on track after I realized they had this casual attitude about contact. I'm like, well, fuck that. Don't touch me. I don't have that attitude about contact. I want zero contact. You have an acceptable level of contact, which is way higher than mine because mine, again, zero,
Right.
So you're right. That's a very great point you make that seeing one thing. I know I just went off on a whole tangent earlier about how everybody deserves a level of grace, but not that.
No.
My grace goes about that far, and then it's over.
Yeah.
You start costing me money and sending me to the body shop, then I have a lot less grace to offer you at that point.
Right. Yeah. And I think the big thing is like if you really screw up, you got to own it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And if you're not worried about hitting somebody,
don't fight on it. You made contact. Don't be a jerk. Don't want to go out there and start wanting to, punch some faces. And I mean, here's the thing. There's no sponsors waiting for you. You're not going up to, the upper level. You have to be exceptional to get up to the upper level. And there's a great deal of risk.
To start with. That's not how you get there. That's just to get the start to go to the upper level.
And I got to tell you, being a jerk isn't going to help you get there.
Well, let me tell you another reality. More than half of the Formula One field is paying to be there, so ain't nobody gonna yank you up by your bootstraps from a chump car race and go, oh yeah, I gotta get this guy out there. But also, people who are that casual about contact, just incidental contact, that's probably not gonna kill you. They're that much closer to the kind of contact that will kill you.
Right.
So another reason not to trust them.
Right. Absolutely. Somebody makes contact with you, they it just takes one bad hit and it sends you off.
Yeah. It's happened to me.
Right. But I've seen two extremely terrible accidents just from contact, from people just a little red misty, and the accidents themselves were absolutely devastating. There is nobody waiting for you all.
Yeah, nope.
There's not a big pot of money at the end of this. So,
Nope.
But
I
the
mean,
$3 plastic trophy.
you have to weigh the risk, and it's just not. Sometimes it's just not worth it. I mean, you're racing for fun, but shit like that, excuse me, will stamp your team, and people will remember that. And what people have to that are getting into this also have to realize, I don't mean to like freak anybody out or scare anything, but it is a culture. It is a culture, and each league has its own culture. But I don't know how, if in the other circuits where they feel like, throwing down their gloves and going after the guy, I don't know how much that is, but I don't think that's healthy when you don't really have a lot to lose. I mean, you're not gaining anything. You're really not. You just technically, this is all bragging rights. You're putting your life. Sometimes you're putting your life on the line. In some instances, depending on how red misty you get, for bragging rights. So you got to keep that in mind.
Also, hardly anybody to nobody is actually watching you do it. You know what I mean? Like I go to a race. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna. The race started. I'm gonna stay here and watch. I can't make myself stay there for more than like 10 minutes before I wander off to do some other crap that's so important to me. Like I'm almost never watching an endurance race while I'm there, and nobody else is either. Nobody gives a shit. Take it easy.
Nobody gives a shit. Everybody's having a good time. They're having a good time.
I beg to differ. Our YouTube channel routinely gets 4 to 5 views.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, honestly, I don't know where to put all the YouTube money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just piles up in the corner over there, and sometimes we just just throw it away because it's dirty.
Every view any video of me driving has is me. I'm the only one who watches them, and there are maybe hundreds of views, but they're all me.
Allow me to see me race again. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm as good as I remember myself being.
Yeah, just racing is competitive fun, and you really do have to pace yourself. You do, going, what did we hear in that movie? Smooth is fast.
I hear people say shit like that all the time, but I don't believe it.
Oh, no, you don't believe it? No, but what I'm saying is that, just enjoy the journey, enjoy the fun part of it. And it's the rest of it's really not worth it. It's really not to have
the trust can be worth it. I will tell you that. I'm kind of on the other side of the trust rainbow in some ways, where thankfully people trust me to get in their car and drive it without doing mechanical damage or going off the track or hurting anybody, but also being fast. So you can reach a level of trust where people know you as a known quantity outside the car and might be able to say to you, "Hey, do you want to come drive with us?" Which is a pretty good feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still going to pay money to do it, but it's nice to be able to go and have a chance to drive other people's things because people know who you are and they can trust how you're going to handle their material, So that's that. There are various levels and benefits to trust. You know what I mean?
Right. And you know what? There are people in certain circuits where others will not have them in their car because they know how they drive.
Let's name names. Names.
No, that is
that'll be on the OnlyFans channel.
That is a known thing.
You can see Ben's hobbit feet and learn the names of everyone that we know.
I'll spell them out in the sand with my feet, my hairy toes.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we rattle on about trust for the next several hours, let's call this Trust Part 1.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I would love to hear what people are listening. Kind of what's your take on trust? What are some things you've had where you've been rewarded by trusting somebody, and maybe you've had some times where you feel like you couldn't trust somebody after something happened in your car. I'll tell you guys one maybe to get the ball rolling. I met this guy on the West Coast before we moved back to the East Coast. I did a DE. This guy jumped in the car that I was with. It wasn't my car, but it was the car I was driving out there with some buddies. And he did a great job. Seemed to be a super good driver. Came to the West Coast and wanted to drive with us. and we trusted him because he was a kind of a known quantity. Knew this guy could drive a car okay. We didn't know some things about him, like he didn't trust us enough to tell him that he couldn't see. He couldn't
Oh
see the
no.
10. He could see out. He had whatever. He couldn't see anything up close, but he could see out into the track fine. But he couldn't see our 10 gauge. He couldn't see the clock. He wouldn't. So he ended up blowing our engine because he didn't see the 10 gauge going up. And he's just like, yeah, I felt like it was losing power, but he just went out there and kept on jamming because we also didn't realize we couldn't trust him to take care of our stuff. So it blew our car clean up. And we definitely don't trust that guy to do anything. I mean, this is a million years ago, but you know what I mean? So there's a trust story right there. We trusted this guy from his performance and getting to know him out on a track, but turned out we couldn't trust him with our equipment because he couldn't read the gauges and did not care that the car started acting different. He just stayed out there till it just wouldn't go anymore because he blew it all the way up.
Oh, also listen, if you have a teammate, for new teams out there that keep blowing up your car and it's the same teammate, it's not a good teammate.
That's right. Not a trustworthy member.
No, because listen, there is a thing out there called, what do we call it? Car empathy?
Yeah, mechanical sympathy, car empathy. Oh yeah.
Yes, they have to understand that, it's not just about winning, it's about taking care of that car. That car's got to last, three other drivers.
It's not
Taking
about
care of the
fastest
team's car.
It's not about the fastest lap of the weekend, guys.
It's
right.
not.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nope. Even the race monitor, it just says fastest time. It doesn't say who did it, and no one cares.
That's right.
Nobody cares.
But you know
Team
what?
effort.
You guys can trust us to have this again.
That's right. We'll talk more about it.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
All right.
Everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back.